One knock at midnight slammed into my apartment door hard enough to make my wine glass rattle, and that's when my body froze before my mind could catch up. I sat stiff on my worn-out couch, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else, staring at the door like it might explode if I looked away for even a second. Two things were certain in my neighborhood: nobody knocked at midnight with good news, and nobody knocked at all unless they had the wrong address or the wrong intentions. And whoever stood outside my door didn't sound lost. One second knock came sharper, heavier, more deliberate, like patience was already wearing thin. The sound echoed through my tiny apartment, settling deep in my chest where fear lived. One voice followed, deep and controlled, saying my name like it had been waiting all night to use it. "Open up, Miss Chen. I know you're in there." It wasn't angry. It wasn't rushed. And somehow that made it worse. 10 feet away, my phone sat charging uselessly on the kitchen counter while my body refused to move. My fridge wore an eviction notice in bright red letters, mocking me with a deadline I couldn't meet, and I stood there in pajama shorts and an oversized college t-shirt, completely unprepared for whatever nightmare had decided to knock. One shaky sentence was all I could manage, threatening the police in a voice that betrayed me instantly. "I don't know who you are," I said, hating how small I sounded, "but I'm calling the police." One calm response killed that lie before it finished forming. "No, you're not," he said, almost amused. "You sent me a text 2 hours ago asking to borrow $200. I'm here to discuss terms." $200 turned my blood to ice because I remembered exactly when I sent that text. The text I wished I could erase. The text I'd barely thought through. The text that apparently knew where I lived. 2 words echoed in my head louder than the knock ever had: the text. Oh God. The text. 6 hours earlier, I was still convinced I was just having the worst day of my life. My name is Sienna Chen. I'm 24 years old, and by noon that day, everything I relied on had collapsed. One job ended when I snapped at a customer who grabbed me like I wasn't human. My manager didn't care why I yelled. He just cared that I did. One eviction notice slipped under my door made the consequences unavoidable. Pay by Friday or leave. One best friend honeymooning in Bali meant my desperate calls went unanswered. And everyone else I knew was just as broke as I was. $43 in my bank account was all the proof I needed that panic was about to make decisions for me. I needed $200 by Friday or I'd be homeless. The bathroom floor became my breaking point as I cried into a towel and scrolled through my contacts. My parents weren't an option; they'd disowned me when I dropped out of law school to chase photography. My friends couldn't help. No one could. One contact buried deep in my phone caught my eye when I was least careful. A name I'd saved months ago and never thought I'd use. A label that felt harmless at the time stared back at me like a trap I'd set for myself. Richard, emergency $. That desperate tap is how a midnight knock found my door. Richard was this guy I'd met at a coffee shop. Older, well-dressed, kind eyes. We'd chatted about photography and he'd given me his number, said if I ever needed help with equipment or a loan for a big project, to reach out. I'd never called. Pride, mostly. But desperation has a way of crushing pride into dust. I typed out the text through tears. "Hey Richard, I know this is awkward but I'm in a really bad situation. Could I borrow $200 until next week? I can pay you back with interest. I'm sorry to ask. I'm just really desperate right now." I hit send and immediately felt pathetic. The response came 30 minutes later. Address? Just that. One word. I should have questioned it. Should have asked why he needed my address. Should have done a lot of things differently. Instead, I sent, Apartment 4C, 2847 Morrison Street. Thank you so much. Then I'd fallen asleep on the couch, emotionally exhausted, wine-drunk, and utterly defeated. Now someone was at my door claiming to be here about that text. Richard? I called out hesitantly. No. That single word sent chills down my spine. Then who are you? The person who owns the phone number you texted. Open the door, Miss Chen. I don't like talking through walls. Every instinct screamed at me to call the police, to climb out the fire escape, to do anything except open that door. But something in his voice, calm, almost bored, like he did this sort of thing all the time, made me think running would be worse. I walked to the door on shaking legs, still clutching my wineglass like a weapon. Through the peephole, I saw him. Tall. Expensive suit that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. Dark hair pushed back from a face that was all sharp angles and cold beauty. And eyes, even through the distorted glass of the peephole, that looked like they could see straight through lies. Behind him stood two other men, bigger, quieter, their hands folded in front of them. This was not Richard from the coffee shop. I opened the door but kept the chain lock on. Who are you? My voice came out steadier than I felt. His eyes swept over me, the oversized t-shirt, bare legs, messy hair, and something flickered across his face. Amusement? Assessment? I couldn't tell. My name is KIERAN VOLKOV. You texted my number asking to borrow money. I'm here to see if you're worth the investment. The way he said investment made my skin prickle. I think there's been a mistake. I was trying to reach someone else. Clearly. He glanced at the eviction notice visible through the crack in the door. But you still need the money, don't you? Pride warred with desperation. Desperation won. I do. But I don't know you. And you showing up at midnight with security detail doesn't exactly inspire trust. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Smart girl. But if I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't have knocked. Now, are we doing this through a door chain, or are you going to let me in so we can discuss this like adults? Everything in me screamed this was a terrible idea. I opened the door anyway. KIERAN VOLKOV walked into my apartment like he owned it. Hell, the way he moved, he probably owned the whole building and just hadn't mentioned it yet. His men stayed in the hallway. He looked around my tiny studio with those calculating eyes, taking in the photography equipment stacked in the corner, the empty wine bottle on the coffee table, the general chaos of someone whose life was falling apart. Sit, he said, gesturing to my own couch. I sat. Then immediately felt stupid for following orders in my own home. He remained standing, hands in his pockets, studying me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. You're a photographer, he said. Not a question. Trying to be. The equipment is professional grade. Expensive. But you're being evicted. His eyes flicked to mine. Bad at business or bad at life? The bluntness should have offended me. Instead, I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Both, apparently. Something shifted in his expression. Softened, maybe. Or maybe I imagined it. Why do you need $200? Rent. Partial rent. Enough to buy me another week to find a new job and figure out my life. Why not ask family? We don't talk. Friends? Broke or unavailable? So you texted a stranger. He moved closer, sitting on my coffee table directly in front of me. Now we were eye level, and I could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, completely intoxicating. That was either very brave or very stupid. Definitely stupid, I admitted. But when you're drowning, you grab whatever floats by. His eyes held mine for a long moment. They were gray, I realized. Storm-cloud gray with flecks of silver. I'll give you the $200, he said finally. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. I can pay you back. I'm not finished. His voice cut through mine. I'll give you the money. But I want something in return. And there it was. The catch. I'm not sleeping with you for money, I said immediately, my hands clenching into fists. He actually laughed, a real laugh that transformed his severe face into something almost boyish. That's not what I'm asking. Though your mind going there first is interesting. He leaned back slightly. I need a photographer. Someone to document events, take portraits, capture moments. Legitimate work. The pay is $500 per event, more for specialized shoots. I stared at him. Why me? You could hire any professional photographer in the city. Because you're desperate enough to say yes. Because you're talented, I can see that from your equipment choices. And because. He paused, something unreadable crossing his face. Because you texted the wrong number at exactly the right time. What kind of events? Business functions. Gallery openings. Occasionally more private affairs. His eyes never left mine. Nothing illegal. Nothing that will put you in danger. You take photos, you get paid, you keep your mouth shut about what you see. Every warning bell in my head was ringing. What kind of business are you in? Import, export. Investments. Various enterprises. His smile was sharp. Nothing you need to worry about as long as you do your job. Translation: don't ask questions. I should have said no. Should have told him to leave and figured out my problems some other way. When would I start? Tomorrow night. Gallery opening in Manhattan. 8 p.m. Formal attire. He stood, pulling out his wallet and counting out cash. He placed $300 on my coffee table. $200 for your rent. $100 for appropriate clothing. A car will pick you up at 7:30. I didn't agree yet. You will. He walked toward the door, then paused, looking back at me. One more thing, Miss Chen. When you're working for me, you're under my protection. That means no one touches you, threatens you, or makes you uncomfortable. If they do, you tell me immediately. Understood? Something about the way he said it, the cold promise underneath, made me shiver. Why would anyone threaten me? They won't. As long as they know you're mine. The possessiveness in that statement should have terrified me. Instead, it made my heart race for entirely different reasons. He left without waiting for a response. I sat there for a long time, staring at the cash on my coffee table, wondering what I'd just agreed to. The next day passed in a blur of anxiety and preparation. I paid my landlord, who looked surprised I'd come up with the money so quickly. I bought a simple black dress from a thrift store that looked expensive if you didn't look too close. I charged all my camera batteries and cleaned my lenses until they gleamed. At 7:30 exactly, a black town car pulled up outside my building. The driver was one of the men who'd stood outside my door last night. He opened the door for me without a word. The drive to Manhattan was silent except for the sound of my heartbeat thundering in my ears. The gallery was all glass and steel and beautiful people drinking champagne. I felt completely out of place in my thrift store dress and professional camera. Until KIERAN appeared at my elbow. He was wearing a different suit, midnight blue, perfectly tailored, and he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread on powerful men who eat lesser mortals for breakfast. You clean up nicely, he said, his eyes traveling over me in a way that made my skin heat. You said formal attire. I did. I didn't expect you to actually look. He trailed off. Look what? Distracting. He cleared his throat, all business again. Your job is simple. Circulate. Capture candid moments. Focus on the art and the guests. Avoid photographing anyone who looks uncomfortable. At 11, we'll review your work. That's it? That's it. He started to walk away, then turned back. And Sienna? The sound of my first name in his voice did something dangerous to my pulse. Yes. Stay close. Don't wander off alone. Then he was gone, absorbed into a group of serious-looking men in expensive suits. I spent the next 3 hours doing what I did best, becoming invisible with a camera. People relaxed around photographers at events. They forgot you were there. You caught real smiles, genuine laughter, unguarded moments. I photographed elegant women admiring sculptures. Men in clusters discussing business over scotch. The art itself, dramatic and moody in the gallery lighting. And I photographed Kieran. I couldn't help it. The camera was drawn to him like metal to a magnet. The way he moved through the crowd with effortless authority. The rare smile when someone said something that amused him. The cold distance in his eyes when dealing with people he didn't respect. He was the most photogenic subject I'd ever captured. Around 10, I was reviewing shots on my camera when a voice beside me made me jump. "You're new." I looked up to find a woman in a red dress that probably cost more than my car, if I'd had a car. She was beautiful in that sharp, dangerous way. Late 30s, calculating eyes, smile that didn't reach them. First event, I admitted. Working for Kieran? Something in her tone put me on edge. Taking photos for the gallery. Right. Her smile widened. Word of advice, sweetheart. Don't get attached. He goes through girls like other men go through socks. I'm his photographer, not his. For now. She sipped her champagne. But he has a type. And you, unfortunately, fit it perfectly. Before I could respond, a hand pressed against the small of my back. Kieran. Victoria. His voice was ice. I believe your husband is looking for you. Victoria's smile turned venomous. Just giving the new girl some friendly advice. Your advice is neither friendly nor wanted. Leave. It wasn't a request. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger, but she walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Kieran's hand was still on my back, warm through the thin fabric of my dress. What did she say to you? Nothing important. Sienna. His voice dropped lower. What did she say? That you go through girls quickly. That I fit your type. Basic mean girl stuff. I turned to face him and realized how close we were standing. Does it matter? Victoria is my former business partner's ex-wife. She's bitter, vindictive, and not above spreading vicious rumors. His eyes searched mine. You're here to work. Nothing more. Don't let people like her make you think otherwise. But the way he was looking at me, intense, almost protective, contradicted his words. Okay, I said softly. His hand lingered for a moment longer, then dropped. Show me what you've captured. We spent the next hour in a quiet corner, reviewing my photos on his laptop. He was surprisingly knowledgeable about photography, pointing out compositions he liked, angles that worked, moments that told stories. This one, he said, pausing on a shot of him talking with an older gentleman. Delete it. Why? The lighting is perfect. That man is not someone who can be photographed. Delete it. And any others featuring him. I did, no questions asked. We went through the entire gallery, him pointing out which people I should avoid capturing in the future. There were more than I expected. Your world has a lot of camera-shy people, I observed. My world values privacy. He closed the laptop, his eyes meeting mine. You did excellent work tonight. The gallery owner will pay you $500, as promised. Just like that? Just like that. He paused. There's another event next week. Same terms. Interested? I should have been suspicious of how easy it was. Should have questioned why he needed a photographer who could be trusted around camera-shy people. Yes, I said instead. His smile was small but genuine. Good. That became my life. Gallery openings, charity galas, private parties in penthouses overlooking Central Park. Always with KIERAN somewhere nearby, always with the same rules: photograph the moment, avoid certain people, keep my mouth shut. The money was incredible. After 3 events, I'd paid off my rent for 2 months. After 5, I'd upgraded my equipment. After 10, I started to breathe again. But something else was happening too. I was noticing things about KIERAN. The way he took his coffee, black, no sugar, always in a specific navy mug when he was in his office. The way his jaw tightened when he was stressed. The rare, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. And he was noticing me too. His hand would find the small of my back in crowded rooms. His eyes would track me across galleries. He'd appear at my elbow with champagne or water exactly when I needed it. "You're staring," Jade said when I finally managed to have coffee with her after she returned from her honeymoon. "I'm not. You're literally staring at your phone, waiting for him to text you about the next event." She leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "Sienna Chen, are you falling for your mysterious employer?" "No." The lie tasted bitter. "He's just intense." "Intense? Girl, you've mentioned him 17 times in the last hour." "I have not." "KIERAN thinks I should use natural lighting." "KIERAN said my composition was perfect." "KIERAN bought me a new lens." She mimicked my voice. "Should I continue?" Heat crept up my neck. "He's my boss." "It's professional." "Professional my ass." "You're falling for him." "He's dangerous, Jade." "Like, actually dangerous." "The people at these events, the way they talk, the things I'm not supposed to photograph." I trailed off. "I think he's involved in something illegal." "And yet you keep going back." "The money." "It's not about the money anymore. You're financially stable now. You could walk away." She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "So why don't you?" "Because every time I thought about not seeing KIERAN again, my chest physically hurt. Because somewhere between the first event and now, I'd started falling for a man I knew almost nothing about. Because I was an idiot." "I don't know," I whispered. The shift happened at an event in his own penthouse. It was supposed to be a small gathering, business associates, a few investors, casual networking. I was there to capture the atmosphere, nothing formal. I was photographing the city view from his floor-to-ceiling windows when I heard raised voices from his office. I shouldn't have moved closer. Shouldn't have listened. But I did. "Think you can just walk into my territory?" That was KIERAN, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "Your territory? You're getting soft, Volkov. Everyone sees it." An unfamiliar voice, sneering. "Keeping a little photographer pet? Taking her to events? What's next, introducing her to the family business? Leave her out of this." "Why?" "Because you've developed feelings?" "That's exactly my point. You're compromised." The sound of something hitting a wall. A grunt of pain. "You don't touch my people. You don't threaten my people. And you sure as hell don't mention her again if you want to keep your teeth." My heart was hammering so hard I thought they'd hear it through the door. Footsteps approached. I quickly moved away, pretending to photograph a sculpture. 2 men emerged from the office, one of them sporting a bleeding lip. They glared at me as they passed but said nothing. KIERAN appeared in the doorway, his knuckles red. Our eyes met across the room. "Everyone out," he said calmly. "Party's over." The room cleared quickly. His associates knew better than to question him. Within minutes, we were alone. "You heard," he said. "Not a question." "Some of it." He crossed the space between us, each step deliberate. I backed up until I hit the window, my camera pressed between us. "I should fire you," he said quietly. "Send you away before you get hurt?" "But you won't." "No." His hand came up, fingers barely grazing my cheek. "I won't. And that's the problem." "What are you, KIERAN?" "Really?" "Someone who makes deals that exist in gray areas. Someone who protects what's his." His eyes were intense, searching mine. "Someone who's wanted you since the moment you opened your door in that oversized t-shirt, looking absolutely terrified." My breath caught. "You can't want me." "I'm just." "Just what?" "The girl who texted the wrong number and turned my world upside down?" He leaned closer, his breath warm against my skin. "The one person in my life who looks at me like I'm human instead of dangerous? The woman I think about every moment I'm not with her?" "This is insane," I whispered. "We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with cream and honey. I know you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I know you're brave enough to walk into danger for $200 but terrified of letting people close. I know you're loyal, talented, and you see the world through a lens that makes even ugly things beautiful. KIERAN, tell me you don't feel this too. Tell me I'm alone in this and I'll back off. I'll keep things professional." But I couldn't tell him that. Because I did feel it. This terrifying, exhilarating pull toward a man I knew was dangerous, who lived in a world I didn't understand, who looked at me like I was something precious and forbidden at the same time. "I feel it," I admitted. "But that doesn't make this a good idea. Probably the worst idea I've ever had." His forehead rested against mine. "So why can't I walk away from you?" "Same reason I keep coming back to these events even though I know I should run." We stood there, breathing the same air, teetering on the edge of something that would change everything. "If we do this," he said slowly, "there are things you need to understand. My world is complicated. There are people who will try to use you to get to me. There are dangers. I know. You don't." His hands framed my face. "But I'll protect you. Whatever it takes, I'll keep you safe." "That's what I'm afraid of," I whispered. "What you'll do to keep me safe." "Anything." The word was a promise and a threat. "Everything." Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was fierce, desperate, like he'd been holding back for months and finally let himself fall. My camera dropped to the floor, probably ruined. I didn't care, as my hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He kissed me like I was air and he'd been drowning. Like I was the only real thing in his dark world. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were blazing. "Stay tonight," he said. "Not for, just stay. Let me hold you. Let me pretend for one night that this could work." I should have said no. Should have put distance between us. Should have protected my heart. "Okay," I whispered instead. We didn't sleep together that night. Not in that way. But we lay in his bed, my head on his chest, his arms around me, and talked until the sun came up. He told me about his sister who died young. About building an empire from nothing. About the weight of making impossible choices. I told him about my parents' disappointment. About dropping out of law school to chase a dream. About feeling lost and afraid most of the time. "You're the bravest person I know," he said at one point, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. "I'm terrified right now. That's what makes it brave. Doing it anyway." When dawn broke over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, he kissed my forehead. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "I know." People will try to use you against me. I know that too. And you're still here. I'm still here. His arms tightened around me. Then we do this my way. You stay close. You tell me everything. Any threats, any weird conversations, anything that makes you uncomfortable. Promise me. I promise. For 2 perfect months, we existed in a stolen bubble of happiness. Secret dinners in his penthouse. Morning coffees where he'd show up at my apartment with bagels and that small smile. Quiet nights where he'd watch me edit photos while he worked through documents. I learned more about his world, the legitimate businesses that funded everything, the gray area deals that made me uncomfortable but that he assured me were necessary. I'm not a good man, Sienna, he told me one night. But I'm trying to be better. For you. You're good to me, I said. That's what matters. But the bubble couldn't last forever. The first crack appeared when I was at a gallery event without KIERAN. He'd been called away on business, but insisted I still go, still work, still maintain appearances. I was photographing a sculpture when a man approached me. Late 50s, expensive suit, cold eyes. You're Volkov's girl, he said. I'm his photographer. Is that what we're calling it now? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Tell him that Dmitry sends his regards. And that deadlines exist for a reason. I don't know what you're talking about. You will. He leaned closer, his breath making my skin crawl. Pretty little thing like you, caught up in our world. Such a shame when innocent bystanders get hurt. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd. I immediately texted KIERAN. Someone named Dmitry approached me. Said something about deadlines. His response was instant, leave. Now. Car is outside. My hands were shaking as I packed my equipment. In the car, I tried calling him. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. Fear started creeping up my spine. I made it back to my apartment and locked every lock on my door. Then I waited. 1 hour. 2. 3. My phone finally rang at midnight. Are you okay? KIERAN's voice was tight with controlled fury. I'm fine. Where are you? Dealing with Dmitry. Stay in your apartment. Don't open the door for anyone except me. KIERAN, what's going on? A disagreement about business territories. He's trying to intimidate me by going after you. I heard violence in his voice. It won't work. But I need you safe until this is resolved. Should I be scared? Of Dmitry? No. I'll handle him. He paused. But Sienna, this is what I meant. This is the danger that comes with being close to me. I know. Do you? Because it's only going to get worse. My enemies will see you as a weakness. They'll. I know, I repeated, firmer this time. And I'm still here. I'm still choosing this. Choosing you. His breath shuddered over the phone. You're going to ruin me. Maybe we'll ruin each other. Maybe. A pause. I'll be there in an hour. Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is over. Living with KIERAN was like seeing him without his armor. He was softer in his own space, more relaxed. I learned that he cooked when he was stressed, that he had a collection of classic novels he'd read 100 times, that he sang badly in the shower and didn't care. But I also saw the darkness. The late-night phone calls where his voice went cold. The mornings where he'd leave before dawn and come back with shadows in his eyes. The careful way he never told me details about his business dealings. I don't want you tainted by my world, he explained when I asked. The less you know, the safer you are. But I'm already in your world, I pointed out. I work for you. I sleep in your bed. How much safer could ignorance really make me? He didn't have an answer for that. The real breaking point came at a private event in an industrial warehouse. High-level business meeting, KIERAN had said. Photograph the attendees, nothing more. But something felt wrong from the moment I arrived. The atmosphere was tense. The men were harder, more dangerous-looking than the usual gallery crowds. I kept my camera ready, my eyes on KIERAN across the room. That's when I saw it. Through my telephoto lens, zoomed in on a conversation happening in a corner. Money changing hands. A lot of money. And something else, a small package that looked sickeningly familiar from crime shows I'd watched. My stomach dropped. I lowered my camera, my hands shaking. KIERAN noticed immediately. His eyes found mine across the room, and he saw my expression. Saw the realization. He excused himself and crossed to me quickly. What did you see? I think I just photographed a drug deal. His jaw went tight. Delete the photos. KIERAN. Now, Sienna. Delete them. I did, my fingers fumbling with the buttons. I told you I handle gray area deals, he said quietly, his hand on my elbow, steering me toward the exit. Did you think that meant paperwork violations? I don't know what I thought. I pulled away from him. But drugs? That's not gray area, KIERAN. That's people dying. That's not my business. I don't deal in drugs. But some of my associates do, and I can't control that. Can't or won't. His expression went cold. Be very careful right now. Or what? You'll threaten me too? Add me to the list of people you need to handle? You know I would never. I don't know anything. My voice rose, attracting attention. I don't know what you really do. I don't know how deep this goes. I don't know if being with you makes me complicit in people getting hurt. Then leave. His voice was flat. If you can't handle my world, leave. I told you from the beginning it was dangerous. Complicated. That there were things you wouldn't want to see. I didn't think it would be this. Then you were naive. He stepped back, and the distance between us felt like a canyon. Go home, Sienna. Think about whether you can actually live with who I am. Not who you want me to be, who I actually am. I left with tears streaming down my face. I didn't hear from him for 3 days. 3 days of silence. No texts. No calls. No midnight knocks on my door. I threw myself into other photography jobs, trying to distract myself from the KIERAN-sized hole in my chest. Jade came over and found me on my couch, surrounded by tissues, watching stupid romantic comedies. So you're really done? She asked. I don't know. Maybe. He's involved in things I can't condone, Jade. But he's not directly doing those things, right? You said he doesn't deal drugs himself. But he associates with people who do. He benefits from it. Isn't that the same thing? She was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Is it? That was the question that kept me up at night. On the 4th day, there was a knock on my door. Not his usual confident knock. This one was hesitant. I opened it to find KIERAN looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to my couch and sat down heavily. I've been thinking about what you said. About being complicit. About the drugs. I sat across from him, waiting. You're right. I can't control what my associates do. but I can distance myself from it. I've been reaching out to contacts, restructuring agreements, cutting ties with anyone involved in trafficking. He looked at me, and his eyes were raw. It's going to cost me a lot. Money, connections, power. But I can't lose you. I won't. My heart was hammering. Kieran. I'm not saying I'm suddenly a good man. I'm not saying my world will ever be completely clean. But I can be better. I can make choices that I won't hate myself for when I look at you. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. If you'll give me another chance. I'd spent 3 days convincing myself I could walk away. That I should walk away. But looking at him now, exhausted and vulnerable and trying so hard to be better, I knew the truth. I was in love with him. Completely. Irrevocably. Stupidly in love. One condition, I said quietly. Anything. No more secrets. If there's something I need to know about your business, you tell me. I don't want details that could put me in danger, but I need to know enough to make informed choices about being in your life. He nodded. Okay. And if I see something that crosses a line for me, I need to be able to walk away. No guilt, no pressure. Just freedom to choose. You'll always have that. He stood, crossing to me. I never want you to feel trapped, Sienna. You stay because you want to, not because you have to. I looked up at him, this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man. Then I'm staying. His exhale was shaky. Yeah? Yeah. He pulled me up and into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. His face buried in my hair, his voice muffled against my neck. I love you, he said. I know it's too soon. I know I have no right. But I love you, and I need you to know that. My throat was tight with emotion. I love you too. Even though you're infuriating and secretive and your world scares me. Those are all fair assessments. I pulled back to look at him. We're really doing this? Really trying? We're really doing this. He cupped my face. And I promise, I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of you. You already are, I said. You just need to see it. The next 6 months were a strange, beautiful balance. Kieran restructured his business, and I photographed his legitimate events, while carefully avoiding anything that made me uncomfortable. He introduced me to his inner circle, not as his photographer, but as his partner. Sophia, his lawyer, looked at me with something like respect. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid for loving him, she said over coffee one afternoon. But I've never seen him this human. So maybe you're good for him. Vincent, his head of security, was more direct. He's vulnerable because of you. That makes my job harder. But he's also happier. So I guess I'll deal with it. Luca, his tech specialist, just grinned. About time someone broke through that ice wall. I learned to navigate his world. Learned which questions to ask and which to leave alone. Learned when to push him to be better and when to just hold him through the weight of his impossible choices. And he learned me. My moods, my fears, my dreams. He bought me a gallery space, not as a gift, but as an investment, he insisted. He came to every showing, standing in the back, watching people admire my work with pride in his eyes. You're talented, he'd say. You always were. You just needed someone to believe in you. I needed to believe in myself, I corrected. That too. We fought sometimes. About his overprotectiveness. About my tendency to push boundaries. About the fundamental differences in how we saw the world. But we always came back to each other. The real test came 8 months into our relationship. I was at my gallery, preparing for a new exhibition, when two men in suits walked in. FBI, their badges said. My heart stopped. Miss Chen, we need to ask you some questions about KIERAN VOLKOV. I'd known this moment might come. KIERAN had warned me. But knowing and experiencing were very different things. I need to call my lawyer. That's your right. But we're not accusing you of anything. We just want information. Then you definitely need to talk to my lawyer. I called Sophia immediately. She was there in 20 minutes, immaculate and intimidating. The interrogation, because that's what it was, despite their casual tone, lasted 2 hours. They asked about events I'd photographed. People I'd seen. Conversations I'd overheard. I answered carefully, telling the truth but offering nothing extra. I'd photographed parties. I'd seen wealthy people networking. I'd heard nothing unusual. You're in a relationship with Mr. Volkov, one agent said. Surely he's mentioned his business dealings. He runs an import-export company and makes investments. That's all I know about his professional life. You don't find it suspicious that you know so little about what your boyfriend does for a living? I find it respectful that he doesn't bore me with business talk, I said coolly. Do you tell your partner every detail of your job? Sophia hid a smile. They eventually let me go, but not before warning me that associating with KIERAN could have consequences for my own future. I called him the moment I was outside. I know, he said before I could speak. Sophia already called. Are you okay? Shaken. But okay. I leaned against the gallery wall, suddenly exhausted. They're really investigating you. They've been investigating me for years. They won't find anything. My legitimate businesses are completely clean. And your non-legitimate ones? Extremely well hidden. He paused. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not your fault. It is. Being with me put you on their radar. I knew that was a possibility. I closed my eyes. I'm not going anywhere, KIERAN. You should. You should run far away from me and never look back. But I won't. So stop trying to push me away every time things get hard. His laugh was low and rough. You're stubborn. You love it. I really do. After the FBI visit, things shifted again. KIERAN became more protective, more careful. His security detail started following me places. His lawyer coached me on what to say if questioned again. This is temporary, he assured me. The investigation will close. They always do. They never find anything solid. And if they do? He was quiet for a long moment. Then you walk away. You tell them you didn't know about anything illegal. You were just a photographer who fell for the wrong man. Sophia will protect you. I'm not abandoning you if things go bad. Yes, you will. His voice was firm. Because I love you too much to let you go down with me. Promise me, Sienna. If it comes to that, you save yourself. I didn't promise. The investigation intensified over the next month. More questions. More surveillance. I could feel federal eyes on me everywhere I went. KIERAN pulled back slightly, seeing me less frequently, always in public places, maintaining what his lawyer called plausible deniability. I hated it. I hated the distance. I hated sleeping alone. I hated watching him shoulder this burden without being able to help. Let me in, I told him during one of our rare dinners. Stop protecting me and let me help. There's nothing you can do. I can be here. I can remind you that whatever happens, you're not alone. His hand found mine across the table. You being here is everything. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. I was reviewing old photos from my early events with Kieran, organizing my archive, when I noticed something. A face that appeared in multiple shots. A man who was always in the background, always watching. I pulled up more photos. There he was again. And again. Sophia, I called her immediately. I think someone's been surveilling Kieran's events for months. Maybe years. She had me send every photo. Within hours, Luca had identified the man. A federal informant who'd been planted in Kieran's circle years ago. The information was enough to get the investigation dismissed. Illegal surveillance. Fruit of the poison tree. All the charges they'd been building evaporated. Kieran called me at midnight, his voice thick with emotion. You saved me. We saved each other, I corrected. Isn't that what love is? After the investigation closed, we could finally breathe. Finally exist without looking over our shoulders constantly. Kieran took me back to his penthouse, the same place where everything had shifted months ago. I have something for you, he said. He handed me a small box. Not a ring box, something bigger. Inside was a key. To what? This place. Move in with me. Officially. No more splitting time between apartments. No more pretending we don't want to wake up together every morning. My heart swelled. That's a big step. We've already taken bigger ones. We've survived FBI investigations and death threats and your discovery that I'm not exactly a law-abiding citizen. His smile was soft. Moving in together seems almost mundane by comparison. I laughed, the sound watery with happy tears. When you put it that way. Is that a yes? It's a yes. He pulled me close, kissing me with a tenderness that still made my knees weak. I'm going to spend every day proving you made the right choice, he murmured against my lips. You already have. Moving in with Kieran was like learning him all over again. The morning routines, the evening rituals, the quiet moments in between. He was surprisingly domestic when he wanted to be, cooking elaborate breakfasts on weekends and leaving little notes around the apartment. You're a secret romantic, I accused him one morning, finding another note tucked into my camera bag. Only for you. My gallery thrived. With financial stability and Kieran's connections, I could finally focus on my art instead of survival. My first major exhibition sold out completely. Kieran bought 3 pieces. When I asked why, he just smiled. I like supporting talented artists. Especially ones who let me kiss them. That's a very specific criterion. I'm a specific person. But life with Kieran wasn't all domestic bliss. His world still had sharp edges. There were still late-night meetings and tense phone calls. Still moments when I'd see the ruthlessness in his eyes and remember he was capable of things I didn't want to imagine. One night, I woke to find his side of the bed empty. I found him on the terrace, staring out at the city, his shoulders tight with tension. What's wrong? Had to make a hard choice tonight. His voice was flat. Someone betrayed the organization. I had to handle it. I wrapped my arms around him from behind, resting my cheek against his back. Do I want to know the details? No. Did anyone die? No. But they won't forget the lesson. I held him tighter. Are you okay? I don't know. His hands covered mine. I don't know if I'll ever be okay with the things I have to do. But having you here, knowing you see me and love me anyway, it makes the weight bearable. Then I'll keep being here. Through all of it. Even the dark parts? Especially the dark parts. That's when you need me most. A year after I'd texted the wrong number, Kieran took me back to my old apartment building. It was run down as ever, but somehow it felt nostalgic. Why are we here? I asked. Because this is where it started. Where a desperate woman texted a stranger and accidentally changed both our lives. He turned to me, his expression serious. I've been thinking about that night a lot lately. About fate and chance and wrong numbers that turn out to be right. Kieran. He dropped to one knee. My breath caught. I know we've done everything backwards. We fell in love before we even really knew each other. We survived federal investigations before we'd said I love you. We moved in together before we'd had a proper date. He pulled out a ring box. But I don't care about the order. I care about the destination. And my destination is you. Every day, for the rest of my life, you. Tears were streaming down my face. Sienna Chen, will you marry me? Will you choose this complicated, dangerous, absolutely inconvenient life with me? Will you keep calling the wrong numbers that turn out to be right? I dropped to my knees in front of him, framing his face with my hands. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, a simple, elegant band with a single stone that caught the streetlight. I love you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I love you too. Every complicated, protective, surprisingly romantic part of you. We kissed there on the sidewalk, in front of my old building, exactly where our story had begun with a desperate text and a midnight knock. The wedding was small. Just his inner circle and my closest friends. Jade cried through the entire ceremony. I can't believe you're marrying a maybe mobster, she whispered during the reception. Definitely mobster, I corrected. Let's be honest. And you're okay with that? I looked across the room at Kieran, who was deep in conversation with Sophia but whose eyes kept finding mine, softening every time our gazes met. I'm more than okay. He's my choice. Every single day, he's my choice. You're insane. Probably. But I'm happy. Marriage didn't change much between us. We were already committed, already partners in every sense that mattered. But there was something about the public declaration, the rings, the legal bond that made it feel even more real. You're stuck with me now, I told him on our wedding night, both of us exhausted and happy. That was always the plan. Even when I called the wrong number? Especially then. He pulled me closer. The moment I heard your voice, scared and desperate and so damn brave, something in me knew. This girl is going to turn my world upside down. Was I right? Completely. 2 years into our marriage, I got a call from an unknown number. My heart jumped, old habits, but when I answered, it was just a wrong number. A kid asking if this was the pizza place. No, sorry, I said. You've got the wrong number. After I hung up, Kieran looked at me with amusement. That could have been us. You could have told that kid to order from somewhere else and never looked back. But I didn't. I answered. I took a chance. I moved to sit in his lap, his arms automatically coming around me. Best wrong number I ever dialed. Best midnight knock I ever made. We sat there in comfortable silence, the city glittering outside our windows, the life we'd built together solid and real around us. Do you ever regret it? I asked quietly. Everything you gave up to be with me? The connections you severed, the business you restructured? Never. His answer was immediate. Power and money mean nothing without someone to share them with. You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever, hope. Purpose beyond survival. He kissed my temple. You saved me, Sienna. In every way a person can be saved. We saved each other, I corrected, like I always did. Yeah. His smile was soft. We really did. Looking back now, I can trace every moment that led us here. The desperation that made me text a stranger. The wrong number that connected me to exactly the right person. The midnight knock that changed everything. The choice to stay when every rational part of me screamed to run. Love isn't always safe. It's not always simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated, and it asks you to be braver than you ever thought possible. But when it's real, when it's the kind of love that sees all your darkness and chooses you anyway, that challenges you to be better while accepting who you are, it's worth every risk. KIERAN wasn't perfect. His world was dangerous, his past was dark, and there were parts of his business I'd never fully understand or approve of. But he was mine. And I was his. And somehow, against all odds, we built something beautiful in the spaces between light and shadow. Years later, when young photographers ask me how I got my start, I tell them the abbreviated version. I took a chance on an opportunity that seemed too good to be true. I worked hard, built connections, and never stopped believing in my art. But the real story, the one I saved for late nights with KIERAN, both of us tangled together in the life we built, is so much more complicated and beautiful. I texted the wrong number when I was desperate and alone. A dangerous man answered. And we fell in love in the space between his midnight knock and my choice to open the door. Some people spend their whole lives looking for a connection that feels like fate. I found mine in a wrong number, a borrowed $200, and a man who saw me when I was at my lowest and decided I was worth showing up for. Every day since then, we've kept showing up for each other. Through FBI investigations and gallery openings. Through late-night confessions and early morning coffee. Through the darkness of his world and the light of mine. We chose each other. Again and again and again. And I'd dial that wrong number 1,000 more times if it meant finding my way back to him. Because sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful destinations. Sometimes forbidden love is the only kind worth having. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to ask a stranger for help, the universe sends you exactly who you need, even if they're the last person you should want. KIERAN Volkov was dangerous, complicated, and absolutely wrong for me in every logical way. But he was also kind when I needed gentleness, strong when I needed protection, and brave enough to love me even when it made him vulnerable. He was my wrong number. My midnight knock. My dangerous choice. My unexpected salvation. And I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Every time he says my name, something in me still breaks open, but now it breaks open with joy instead of fear. With certainty instead of doubt. With love that's deeper than I ever imagined possible. We didn't have a safe love story. We didn't have a simple one. But we had ours. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. So here's what I learned from texting the wrong number at my lowest moment. Sometimes desperation leads to destiny. Sometimes the scariest choices bring the greatest rewards. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the city is also the safest place you'll ever find home. And sometimes, love finds you in the space between a wrong number and a right person, in the pause between a midnight knock and the choice to open the door. I opened the door. And I've never looked back.